Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Desmond Johnson Show. Of course, it's high school football preview Wednesday. My man Marc Pruitt from the Winston-Salem Journal, prep beat writer, will get us set up with his big three like he does every Wednesday afternoon. The top three games coming up this upcoming Friday, and we'll review some of the games from last Friday too. Plus, Ryan Stone will come in for best bets for college football and for the NFL for this upcoming weekend. Let's go ahead and get it popping. It's the Desmond Johnson Show.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city need that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whack. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's 4th and inches. I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And again, welcome to the Desmond Johnson Show here on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. I hope everybody's getting their Lunchables and whatnot in as they're sitting on their lunch breaks at work. Marc Pruitt in the house from the Winston-Salem Journal helping us out here in terms of reviewing last week and previewing this upcoming week. It's our Wednesday high school football preview brought to you by Nikki Rottweiler at Head Realty Group EXP. Marc, I guess let's start back from last week. And the biggest game was Grimsley and East Forsyth. Grimsley wins that one 48-21, I believe was the final score there. And I have to say it was an event. I think you were over on the visitor side. I didn't get a chance to come over and say, hey, in the visitors box, but it felt like a college atmosphere, didn't it? Like,
it's a great crowd.
Yeah.
I think it was really, really neat what Grimsley was doing to honor the World War II veterans, the paratroopers that flew in at halftime and with the smoke going and all the kids in their red, white, and blue. It was a great event. That it basically met the moment, I think, for the game with all the hype surrounding the game. And I think the memorable moments with the game and then what Grimsley did to honor veterans of World War II. It was just really neat to see the paratroopers come in there at halftime with the band going and everything. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think East Forsyth had a whole lot of fun last Friday night.
No, I don't think they did. I don't think they had a good time.
A lot of frustration on the field when I was talking to a couple of them after the game. And I think Grimsley's just showing everybody how good they are. And they're really good even without arguably their best player and one of the best players in the country in Faison, who's probably going to be out a few more weeks. But they just kept coming at them from everywhere. And
it was really, that was the first time me and Rod Funderburg have called East Forsyth football since 2018. We have never called East Forsyth loss like that in the time period that we've called these games. And they've won 2 state championships, a bunch of division titles, and Lord knows how many wins. Coach Wheeler just celebrated his 200th win the week prior against Northern. So we came into that game kind of thinking, we didn't think it was going to snowball like that, but we were like, if certain things happen, it can. And that's the certain things did happen. That was turnovers, lost them down, stuff like that, where Grimsley's showing that you cannot do that to them, especially at Grimsley. Like if you do that at their home, you're basically spotting them 20 points, like by turning the ball over 3 times.
Willard was telling me after the game, he's like, you just can't make mistakes against teams like this, and we did that too much tonight, and we weren't doing the little things well, and that's what we typically will do.
Yeah.
And Grimsley's defense was just, they were lights out pretty much.
Yeah. The offense couldn't get into a rhythm of any kind, and then it got to a point where they were so behind they had to kind of figure out how to get the ball down the field, and opportunities.
They had 3 and outs in the second half. They couldn't sustain the drives, and that's just, you got to figure out ways to get to the chains, move those chains around so you can get your offense going. And there's a lot of frustration on the field Friday night after the game, I know, from the East.
Now, having said all that, we just did the Nets with Todd Willard last night, and you can find it on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Podcast Network now. It's already out. And the vibe I got from him listening to the show while I was producing it was that they still feel like if they got another shot at Grimsley, that they'll have a better game plan and they'll be better prepared. He didn't go at it as if, they're just unbeatable, they're unstoppable or anything like that. Right. He was more like, they're really good teams. Like, you can't beat really good teams that way. And he said they went back and looked at the tape and it wasn't as bad as they thought it was on the field. Some penalties need to be cleaned up. You can't hike the ball over the quarterback's head into the end zone at Grimsley. Like, you just can't do some of these things. And then it was 27-7 at the half. Like, I don't think there is a team in the state of North Carolina that's going to come back on Grimsley if they're up on you by 20 at home. And, it's too hard. And shout out to the freshman quarterback, Brody Lowe, who came in for Faison. He actually was selling some passes high in the very beginning of the game. You could tell maybe the moment was kind of big for him, but to Coach Brown's credit and Grimsley and the players around him, he settled down. And once he settled down and they kind of started relying on the run game, with a plethora of backs, it's not the Mitchell Summers era anymore, where it's just one dude getting like 30 carries. They had like 2 or 3 guys running it. And by the end of the game, we left kind of impressed. They were telling me in the offseason over at Grimsley that, I was like, who's after Faison when he leaves? And they were like, yeah, we got a freshman kid that's coming that's really good. Like, we think he's got a chance to be just as good as Faison. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I saw him. I was like,
see it, yeah. And you're like, okay. Just talking to Coach Brown after the game last week, he said, we're not asking Brody to do everything that Faison does. We've got the Cooper brothers. We've got Micah Williams. We got Ty Shoemake. We're just asking him to get those guys the ball and let them make the plays around.
Yeah. And that's what happened. That's literally what happened on Friday night.
They're all of them have offers somewhere to play.
Yeah.
Next level, it seems. And that's what happened. I mean, Brody, I think he got close to 300 yards when all was said and done. I don't have my stuff in front of me.
Against probably the best secondary they've seen up to this point. East Forsyth secondary is pretty good.
That was one thing I thought, talking to Coach Willard last week. I talked about that with him, about how I thought they had a definite edge in the secondary versus what West Forsyth had, whose younger secondary played a very good game against Grimsley. But with the experience level that East has back there with Dom Chaboy and Zion, and I really thought that was going to give them a really good chance to be in this thing. And I was really stunned to see kind of how it got away from them as early as it did.
Well, some of it too. I think the number one thing for me, I drew from it. Sorry about that. The number one thing I drew from it was that Grimsley was converting their third downs, and that's what kept them on the field.
A lot of third.
Yeah, it was like back breaking. It'd be like 3rd and 12 or something, and Grimsley's deep in their own territory. And Low, there was one play in particular where it might have been Cooper that cut across the field and followed Low as he was trying to run away from defenders, and he hit him for like a 30-yard gain, like right in their midfield. And it just kind of broke the back of the defense a little bit. Because it was like, man, we finally got them kind of pushed back. We can get back in this game. And then next thing you know, Grimsley's on the East Forsyth side of the field, 1st and 10 at like the 38 or whatever yard line. You're just like, man, what happened? And that was kind of the name of the game there. But again, the experience itself, they had 3 guys parachute in at halftime on the 50-yard line. There's smoke going everywhere. There's music going on. They got the light show going on and everything. Like, it's an event over there. It's one of my favorite places to go watch a football game at the moment. And I left that game thinking that's not going to be the last time they see each other. They're going to see each other again sometime in November, especially with 7A being the way it is. I think Drew Dole, who is the baseball coach over at East Forsyth, he's also our statistician when it comes to like RPI and seedings and stuff like that. And they already have a way too early seating for the brackets for 7A. And he said, actually, them going over there and playing Grimsley, even though they lost, their RPI didn't really change because of how high Grimsley is. And them being on the road, it actually kind of helped them out RPI-wise. So,
and both teams have been playing hard out of conference opponents the first few weeks of the season. So it's going to help. I think that's going to help in the long run. And seeing them again, I think everybody would love to see that again.
I wouldn't mind seeing it with a different game plan. I've been asking for the game for 4 years, and now I kind of regret asking for it. Being the East Forsyth fans, like, I kind of wish it was last year's team that got a chance to see him. But I got faith in this year's team.
A lot of fun.
That would have been fun because that would have been Grimsley versus East. The winner goes to the state championship at Grimsley, and the 2 top quarterbacks in the state. But
Weddington got in the way, but I almost got
Yeah, they tend to do that. So moving forward, so that clash is over. Grimsley's on a bye this week, much deserved bye after going through a gauntlet of at West Charlotte, at West Forsyth, and then hosting East Forsyth their first 3 weeks of the season. Now they get to go into a bye. East Forsyth will be taking on Ragsdale as the WCOG game of the week on Friday. Kickoffs at 7:00. Myself and Rod Funderburk on the call there. And the WTOB game of the week is Southwest Guilford at Glen, if I'm not mistaken. Max Wallace and Mike Fanning will be on the call for that one. Give us your 3 big games for the week here, coming up here September 12th.
We'll get back to East because I think that's going to be an interesting one to watch just as a response to what happened last week because they're just not used to losing in the regular season.
Yeah,
very much. But I think the prime matchup this week is going to be undefeated Reagan 3-0 against Northern Guilford 2-1. Reagan really, I think, turned a lot of heads last week with a 35-0 shellacking of Reedsville. That I think opened a lot of eyes to just how good not only Reagan is, but the defense that Reagan has this year, which Coach Josh McGee told me a couple of weeks ago is probably the best one he's had in his 14, 15 years he's been there. You shut out Reedsville, a team that's a perennial state championship contender.
Yeah, pretty good. That's pretty good.
I wasn't surprised Reagan won the game. I was surprised that it was 35-0.
Yeah.
You shut out Kendra Harrison, Deontay Neal. That offense, it just really opened my eyes to a whole new level for how I think good Reagan is right now. They have allowed 6 points this season in 3 games. So the defense is getting it done. I know their linebacker, Leo Housel Rajicic, I always pronounce it wrong. Rajicic had like 15 tackles last week. He was all over the place. He is a man-child out there on defense for Reagan. Jacob Smith seems to be steadying along in the season. Kind of got off to a rough start the first week, but he seems to be coming into his own again after coming back from that torn ACL he had last year. And the running back, John Evans Jr., is just a machine. Could be the best player so far through 3 weeks in this area. He's already got over 600 rushing yards for the year, and I want to say 5 or 6 touchdowns already.
Man,
so they're putting up, and they're not playing cupcakes. I mean, Northern Guilford's 2-1. Their only loss was against East Forsyth last week. So
yeah.
Northern's a good team. They've put up 40 points in 2 of their games this year. I think turnovers got the better of them against East Forsyth. They turned it over 6 times in that game and that loss.
Yeah.
But Coach Eric Westberg got a great offensive mind. Jackson Kemp, the quarterback, another great.
He's good. Yeah, Kemp is really good.
And I think it's going to be might even be a little better matchup on paper than the Reedsville game. Now, hindsight being 2020, but I really thought that Reedsville Reagan game was going to be a lot of fun. Turned out to a lot of fun for Reagan, but not Joyce and his Eric Teague and the Reedsville guys. But that'll be a fun one to keep an eye on Friday night.
Yeah, and I wouldn't count Reedsville out by any means. They're punching above their weight class right now in non-conference. When they get into the mid-state conference, they'll be fine.
They're playing tough schedule. They played Northern a couple weeks ago and had Northern on the ropes in the fourth quarter.
Right. Yeah, that was a sprint basically between the two of them. So Reedsville's like 1-2, but again, they lost to Northern, they lost to Reagan. They're punching way up above their weight class right now. So don't worry about Reagan. They'll be dropping 50 burgers on people in about 2-3 weeks here once they get into conference play, probably, if we know Reedsville. Give me your game number 2.
This one's just fun to me on paper because I think it's going to be kind of a grudge match. Northeast Guilford and Dudley. Dudley's 0-3. Northeast,
yes, they are.
No, and Northeast, Antonio Hall, the new coach there this year, was the offensive coordinator at Dudley, and a lot of Dudley players followed him up to Northeast Guilford, including quarterback Jaquez Crawford.
Yeah.
So this one probably going to be a little tense, I would imagine. But I mean, credit to Northeast Guilford for kind of turning things around this year for them. And Dudley, I guess they're still trying to figure out how to cope with the losses that they did have with their talent and the kids that followed Coach Hall up the Northeast.
It's crazy because Dudley's 0-3, Mount Tabor's 0-3. Both of them were in the same conference, 4 or 5 years ago, and they were at the top of it too. They were battling each other when it was 3AA or whatever. And Mount Tabor ended up winning the state championship in 2021. I think the only loss they had were to each other during that stretch. And now seeing them kind of trying to figure things out. Tabor has a really young team. Dudley, again, to your point, a lot of their players are either at Grimsley or they went to Northeast Guilford or they went off to other places. So head coach Stephen Davis is dealing with turnover he hasn't really had to deal with in the past. But again, it's Dudley. They're always got talent. Their non-conference schedule's been pretty hard too. I think they lost to Durham Hillside last week, if I'm not mistaken. Is that where they went out to?
Sounds right. Yeah,
I think that's right. So yeah, that's an interesting one to watch too, and see how Dudley can respond to starting off 0-3, probably for the first time in
why?
Lord knows how long. Yeah, it's been a long minute. Give us your game number 3, Mark.
Well, we talked about East a little earlier. Going to Ragsdale, Antoine Stevenson, former coach at Glenn, is at Ragsdale. He and Willard, they have a fairly good relationship, but I think it'll be fun. The most important thing for me is to kind of see how East responds to losing a regular season game like they did last week. Like I said, it does not happen often. Maybe this is that bounce back game, get back game, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure Coach Will have those guys ready and amped up. Ragsdale's struggling so far this year. They're 0-3. I think they've had some injury stuff. I know Coach Stevenson's son was playing quarterback this summer during 7-on-7s when I saw him. But he's younger. I think he's a sophomore this year.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't have a whole lot of experience at the position. So I think seeing that and kind of rekindle that old rivalry at a different school, but with the same coach, I think that'll be fun to keep an eye on. There's a lot of other games around. West Forsyth is playing Tabor. It's Hall of Fame night at West Forsyth. Former coach Adrian Snow is being inducted along with AJ Henry and about, I think, 7 or 8 other people.
Man.
Significant impact on athletics over there. That's where I will be. I'll be in Clemens Friday night. That'll be a fun one. Carver is 3-0 for the first time in I don't know how long.
I saw that too. My wife went to Carver, so she's been hearing it from all the Carver folks that they're excited right now.
It's homecoming week, so it's gonna be
early
light over there.
For homecoming, isn't it?
And they're playing college prep and leadership, which I think this is their first year of having football. It's a school in Jamestown. But Carver, I was looking back as far as Max Press would let me today, and they had not been 3-0 to start the season throughout since I think it was like 2005-06 that I could go back to. And a lot of that is because they would play Dudley the first game of the season, and Dudley would always beat them, but then reel off 9-10 wins in a row. And when the program was really, really strong and win a state championship.
Yeah, they were winning state titles. Like I think 2001, 2002. Actually, Carver and Parkland were really good. Like the very beginning of the 2000s, they would fill up Bowman Gray. They had to move that game to Bowman Gray Stadium to play it whenever they play each other. And yeah, happy to see Carver starting to see some success, and I think they'll do okay in their conference too once they get into conference play. But I like that they're doing well in non-conference and playing really well there. As for East Forsyth and Ragsdale, I'm with you. I'm in the same boat. I haven't seen East have to respond the following week after losing a game of that magnitude. Usually it's like in November whenever they have a game like that. And then it's just the end of the season. There's no, well, what can they do next week? This will be the first time I get a chance to call an East game really in 6 years where they're rebounding from basically a butt whooping. Like it really was. Like there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Kind of want to see how they respond to it. Willard last night, his tone was that the practices have been really hard. But I think the coaches they won't say it, but I think they like the fact that they lost the way they did because it gives them even more reason to kind of get in these kids and maybe reach them in ways they couldn't reach them before. Because if you're just winning when you go out there and half-ass it, now you see what happens when you do it against a good team and you see it in September instead of at the end of the year. And that's typically what's happened with East, where they were for 3 or 4 years in a row here with Bryce Baker and Jalen Rayner. They were just dropping 50 points on everybody and having running clocks in the third quarter. So the starters are sitting for the first 11 games of the year. And then you get into the playoffs and you run into a Weddington or Independence or whoever or Huff. And they couldn't, if they got punched in the face, they couldn't punch back because they hadn't been punched before. And like, they didn't know how to react to it. They've been punched early now. So I want to see how they react going forward after that. And I think they'll be just fine. They still got Mooresville after this at home. They'll be finally back home after 3 games on the road. and then I think it's at West Forsyth right after that. So yeah,
First
so
game of conference play in Clemens, so that'll be a fun one too.
that'll be fun. Yeah,
So.
and maybe both of those teams will be one-loss teams by the time we get to that. Mark, follow Mark's work on X at Marc_Pruitt. You can read it in the Winston-Salem Journal. You can get more of a detail from the written version that'll be out, I'd imagine, on Friday.
Yep, I'm hoping to have a little preview of some of the Hall of Fame guys at West. They're getting in, talk to Coach Snow and maybe a couple of people.
Nice
for my Friday story, but we'll have the games to watch from in the Winston area, not in Greensboro. But
yeah, it seems like most of Greensboro's kind of on a bye, or they're like Eastern Guilford County type stuff. So
I'll have my Friday football content in Friday morning, and we'll have we're announcing our week 3 player of the week. Will be out tomorrow, and I'll be visiting the campus and doing a little presentation for that. So that'll be fun too.
Is Gabby dragging you out to Titans Talk tonight?
I believe we will be there. Yes.
All right. So we will see you at Titans Talk tonight, the West Forsyth Coaches Show. You can hear live with head coach Kevin Wallace on Tobacco Road Sports Radio at 7:30 p.m., hosted by Jeff Marson. So we will say goodbye to Mark and get him out of here because I'm sure he's got to get back to work. We'll talk to you later on tonight.
All right. See you. Thanks.
And there he goes. That's Marc Pruitt, and we'll bring in Ryan Stone, our best bets aficionado, now in the prime season of his year as college football, NFL is going on. There's parlays and odd bets and everything that's going right now. I came out of the shower to my phone going nuts, and it was JP Mundy asking me random questions about Wake Forest, NC State. I was like, what is going on here? Ryan, give us some best bets for the weekend. Are you starting off with Thursday in Wake Forest, NC State, or are you moving into the weekend?
Well, I actually do have a best bet for Thursday night for the NFL game, though.
Ooh, okay.
I like the under 48.5 between the Commanders and the Packers. Both teams' defenses played pretty well over the weekend, and both teams also coming off a short week with both teams playing on Sundays. So I think it kind of lends itself towards the under a little bit in that game. So do like the under there. As I was telling JP, in terms of the NC State Wake Forest game, now granted, Wake Forest has looked awful. Yeah. I mean, absolutely terrible. But NC State, in my opinion, should have lost to Virginia and almost blew a lead against East Carolina as well. So I don't know that NC State's all that great. It's kind of a short week, classic,
weird game
kind of spot. So
yeah.
I'm staying away from that one.
Yeah, I was going to say it might be a good idea because it seems like Wake is dependent on that running back Claiborne. Like if he's playing, then they're a whole different team. If he's not, then they can't score. And NC State, they've got some skill position players actually that are from here, from the state of North Carolina. Hollywood Smothers, Noah Rogers. Like these are all top dudes. Yeah, the dudes that played at Huff or Noah played at Rollsville.
Anderson played at Grimsley. So.
Yeah. I mean, they've got all this test. So if you really want to watch like where the high school kids went from the Triad, most of them are at NC State or in Carolina. Carolina's got a few, but State's got a lot of them that were like top. That feels like they went outside of the ACC for like a year. Was buried on a depth chart. Noah Rogers was with Ohio State and transferred back to NC State. Now he's one of their top wide receivers. So, so you have that. So let's start off with college football, I guess, because I'm over on FanDuel. That I'm trying to become more acquainted with now that they're a partner with Believe, and just kind of looking around. What do you have for college football for the weekend that you're looking at?
So for the noon kickoff, I like Oregon minus 27.5 against Northwestern. Northwestern just not good at all, and Oregon looks to be a national championship contender with Dante Moore at quarterback. They look like they have pretty much anything you could want in a national championship contender. The one thing I will say about this, like I said, I'm taking the minus 27.5. A lot of times in big spreads like this, I'll just take the first half spread. But for this, Oregon is playing a 9 o'clock Pacific time kickoff, a.m. 9 a.m. kickoff. They're coming east to play at Northwestern. And it's a noon kick. So I think it's possible they could get off to a little bit of a slow start and pull away in the second half. That's why I say I'd take the minus 27.5 and probably stay away from the first half spread in that one.
That is a good point there. Didn't even think about that. So Oregon Fourth ranked Oregon, Northwestern. The spread right now on FanDuel is 27.5. You're taking the over on that.
Minus 27.5.
Minus 27.5.
Yeah.
And they've got it at minus 7,000. So basically, if I'm still learning this stuff, so if I wager $10, I'm going to make 14 cents.
Yeah, something like
that. So if I did it on that one, if I did it on the spread, actually, wait, I can't combine that. If I put it on the spread and I bet $10,
$9 and something. Yeah,
nonsense. Yeah. So okay, you got that one. Okay, what else you got for college football?
Primetime game on Saturday night, Notre Dame and Texas A&M. I like under 49.5. This is I think this is a historic defensive battle, rock fight type of game for these two teams. Both teams want to run the ball. Both teams typically have pretty good defenses. I think Notre Dame is going to be looking to try to bounce back coming off the loss to Miami last week. So I like the under in this one at 49.5 as they host Texas A&M on Saturday night. And these two teams played last year to open the year, and it was actually only 36 points scored between the two teams. So I expected it again to be kind of a low scoring game. Do
you think Notre Dame is a college football playoff team again?
Possibly because of their schedule. They need this game. If they lose this one, then no.
For sure. Yeah.
But I think possibly because of their schedule that they could still see themselves in the college football playoff. And I actually thought even though they lost to Miami for one looks really good, and two the freshman quarterback they started at Miami, he played a lot better as that game went on and actually gave themselves a chance to win that game. They came back and tied it up. So I do think Notre Dame is still going to be a pretty good team, but they have to, I think you're not making the playoff if you're Notre Dame at anything less than 10-2. But if they lose this one, you're putting yourself in a position where you got to run the table the rest of the way.
FanDuel has a 6-leg same game parlay that JP will probably ask you about when we get to Saturday. It's Notre Dame money line, Texas A&M alternate spread at plus 14.5, Texas A&M plus 1.5 first quarter spread, Notre Dame minus 2.5 second quarter spread, Notre Dame minus 1.5 third quarter spread, and Texas A&M plus 1.5 fourth quarter spread. It's a same game parlay plus 1627, $10 wager wins $162.
Yeah, I mean that should have those long odds.
Yeah,
that's a pretty wild thing to bet right there. I would stay away from that.
My wife is scared to death that the more I talk about betting between best bets with you and we drop a FanDuel bet of the week in the middle of our midweek Believe in Panthers episode, she's afraid I'm gonna get wooed by the dark side and start betting because I really don't do any of that stuff. I'm learning how to do it now. She's worried as I learn.
As long as you don't bet more than you can afford to lose, it's okay.
I think that's how everybody starts off, isn't it? Yeah. That's usually how it begins. What do you have in the NFL on Sunday after we had week 1 last week and pretty eventful week 1 for some, not for my Panthers, but what do you have going into Sunday?
So I have a couple of teasers that I like this weekend so far. Again, these are the early bets, so I mean I'll have more on my Twitter on Saturday and Sunday. But the two teasers I like so far, I like the Bills tease down to I think it's either a half point or -1. And the Cowboys tease down to the money line, parlaying those together between the Bills and the Cowboys. And then also in terms of teasing some underdogs, I teased the Chiefs up to plus 7.5 against the Eagles at home. Chiefs at home. Granted, long trip back home, but feel like Mahomes will keep that game close against the Eagles. And then I also the Monday night game teased the Buccaneers up to plus 8.5 on the road against the Texans. So Chiefs plus 7.5, Buccaneers plus 8.5.
Explain it to me like I'm 6 years old. What do you mean by you teasing it up to?
Teasing like a 6-point teaser means you're moving the line. So the Chiefs are a 1.5 point underdog. So you're moving it up to 7.5. And then you're parlaying it with another bet. So, so you're doing the same thing with the Buccaneers. So the Buccaneers are, I think, last I looked, they were 2.5 point underdogs on Monday night, teasing them up to plus 8.5. So you give yourself a little bit more insurance with it.
I see why JP is asking you every 2 days what like how to do this and that, because I was like, what is he talking about teasing up? Do you have any other NFL ones that you're looking at, or is it too early?
That's it right now. I mean, the one I kind of looked at and kind of leaning towards is the Jaguars plus 3.5 against the Bengals. I thought Cincinnati should have lost on Sunday against the Browns.
I thought so too. Yeah,
they did not look good. I thought Jacksonville. I'd have probably given them a B in their performance. I think some of that was just Carolina played terrible, but
right.
I think they can keep that game close, and I'm not really necessarily buying the way Cincinnati looked at this point.
I will, and now outside of the betting, just talking NFL real quick. Who impressed you the most week 1? What team did you come away like, oof, yeah, they're going to be a problem?
Man, what the Bills did on Sunday night was impressive.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leaning. I mean, I was impressed with Baltimore up until like the last 8 minutes of the
teams were impressive, but that's not really surprising. I mean, that game was pretty much. Now, granted, I didn't expect there to be 81 points scored in that game, but
neither did anybody else who went to bed when it was like 40-25 and with like 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I don't think anybody else thought it was going to get up to 80 either. But
another game I'll say that, complete shocker to me, and I took the under on it and was completely wrong. That bet was trashed by halftime. It was the Jets and Steelers. Like I would have never thought that would have been the best game of Sunday, one of the best games of Sunday afternoon going in. I mean, I thought it would have been close, but 34-32. I thought that was a fun game.
Justin Fields looked good, and I didn't have Aaron Rodgers throwing 4 touchdown passes on my bingo card week 1. Now, granted, it's kind of melted into like the course of that game. So at the end of it, if you just look at the box, we're like, oh man, Aaron Rodgers had 4 touchdowns. They needed a 60-yard field goal to win the game. Yeah. But again, don't bet. And this is the thing too. Somehow JP Mundy is a guest star on the show, but he's not on the show today. Me and you have had to listen to JP Mundy go on and on about his Pittsburgh Steelers all offseason. I'm waiting on the week where JP comes in as if he didn't say anything about the Steelers and go, how you like those Steelers 4-0 or whatever. And we're just going to unload on them. Like, are you kidding? Like you've literally tried to give them away for like the past 6 months. Like, no Aaron Rodgers.
It's been longer than that.
Yeah, really. We're going into last year. Want to fire Mike Tomlin and all this other stuff. And I'm like, Mike Tomlin would have a job before he left the parking lot. Like, if y'all let him go, like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm a Panther fan, Ryan. I don't understand this logic of JP has lived his entire life basically with the Steelers having probably a good season, except for like a stretch in the 80s. He's pretty much his entire life they've been the Steelers. Yeah. I have not had back-to-back winning seasons as a Carolina Panther fan for their existence. Yep. And I'm in a 6-year drought right now, 7-year drought right now of the Panthers just being something. I can't even call them incompetent. It's like they're trying, but it's like I don't know. It's all mismatched. Just so to see somebody like that's a Steeler fan that's used to winning and they're complaining they're not winning enough. And I'm like, we're not winning at all. Yeah. Like, can we get a little of that winning? We'll take Mike Tomlin off your hands today if you don't want him. But the Aaron Rodgers thing, I think it'll work out if he's healthy. And they'll fix the offensive line. They'll fix the defense. They'll fix the run game. That's the stuff the Steelers do. Like, I mean, it was week 1. And the one thing I did take away from week 1, it wasn't just the Panthers. It was sloppy football, like all over, like college football too, from week 1, but especially in the NFL. Go look at the numbers of the quarterbacks. Yeah. If you take away Daniel Jones and you take away Josh Allen and Lamar and Justin Herbert threw for 300 yards too. It's all like they threw for 140 yards or, like it's all ugly. Like nasty.
I mean, for example, like Baker Mayfield threw 3 touchdowns and had no interceptions, but he barely completed over 50% of his passes. And at one point, I think he was like 2 of 10. Yeah. So he got hot as the game like went on, and they ended up winning the game. But yeah, I mean, that was definitely some ugly football. Justin Herbert, actually, you asked me who impressed me the most. Justin Herbert, I think right now, outside of Josh Allen, Justin Herbert would be right there in the MVP discussion after week 1.
Jim Harbaugh, man. Like, was I not the one hoping Harbaugh would end up in Charlotte? Because I was like, I know what he's going to do. Like, he's going to win the season opener. He hasn't lost one yet as an NFL head coach. He's like 6-0. If he has a quarterback in place, he's going to win football games. They're going to come out jumbo, like first down, like with 8 linemen, and they're going to just start running it down your throat. And his quarterbacks never have to actually go out and win the game, but he gives them the ability to go out and win the game. And I was thinking back on it, I'm like, well, At Stanford, he had Andrew Luck.
Yep.
In San Francisco, he had Colin Kaepernick. In Michigan, he had Alex Smith. Yeah, Alex Smith too. In Michigan, he had JJ McCarthy, won a national championship with him. And now he's got Justin Herbert, who everyone's kind of thought, like Trevor Lawrence to a certain degree, like, when are you going to take the next step? Like, when are you going to move to that elite level? And with Jim Harbaugh, I think it's going to be now. Like, I think the Chargers are going to win the West, the AFC West. I really do.
It's definitely possible. He was, Herbert was really impressive. I thought, and the Chargers in general winning that game, I thought was pretty impressive. So, I mean, I think, like I said, I think Justin Herbert might have had the most, outside of Josh Allen, might have had the most impressive week one.
Josh Allen, man. Josh Allen's playing like on a different level right now. Like when he's on, like nothing seems to phase him. He just seems like he's like, it looks like a Cadillac. He's just kind of smooth, like what he's doing. And when the game gets that slow to you and you start seeing him doing stuff like that, this might be the last window, the last year in that window I always talk about for Buffalo to get there, but I think they're equipped to get there. I think Baltimore might be in their way, or that Chargers team, actually. I'm not really sure about the Chiefs because I think
the one thing that would concern me about the Bills is the defense.
Right, which is weird because usually the defense is what they kind of lean on. That's Sean McDermott's thing. So I would imagine that would get better as the year goes on. But really, between all of those, I think Baltimore is the one that really needs to get to the Super Bowl this year. Like, they are ready to go now. Like, you're not going to find many rosters that are built the way they are, except for Philly. Derrick
Henry's not getting any younger.
Yeah, and I hate the fact that they're kind of putting it on him about losing that game because he fumbled the ball. I'm like, well, they did give up 15 points in like 8 minutes, and the game was out of reach. Like, and then
plays they could have made.
It was everybody that did it. Yeah. So all they're going to do is make Derrick Henry mad. So don't make Derrick Henry angry. He's going to come out for 200 yards.
Browns this week.
Yeah, let's go on a Derrick Henry parlay. Let me get you out of here. We ran a little over because my internet was acting weird and I couldn't get on here. So finally got all that situated and done. This will be on the podcast network a little bit later on today. No Saturday show because I'm actually on the road with Rod Funderburk on Friday night. We're going to be in Jamestown doing East Forsyth, Ragsdale. And I learned from last week when we did East Forsyth, Grimsley, I remembered why I wasn't doing Saturday shows live because of me doing road games on Friday night. And it's a really fast turnaround. Yep. The Saturday shows will be back the following week, but we're probably going to pre-tape them. And it'll be all NFL, college football stuff. And we'll probably have Ryan on those on Thursdays, like Thursday nights. We'll probably tape those and get you in the discussion there too. So everybody enjoyed these. Again, the high school football games of the week. The WCOG game of the week is Southwest Guilford at Glenn. That is a 7:00 kickoff on Friday. You can hear that in Greensboro and Guilford County. The WTOB game of the week is that's the WTOB game of the week. The WCOG game of the week is East Forsyth versus Ragsdale. You can hear that in Guilford County. The Southwest Guilford Glen game is the TOB game of the week. You can hear that in Forsyth County. And both games, of course, you can hear on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. We will be with you Friday, so we will talk to you guys then.